you. Welcome to Color Changing Valentine Art with Summit Science. I'm Jennifer Hathaway, and I'm here to share with you an idea that I have for some pH fun in your classroom. So many of you may be familiar with using cabbage to create a pH indicator. So cabbage contains a chemical called anthocyanin, and that can change color depending on the acidity of the environment. So often in middle or high school, students will do a lab where you use purple cabbage juice and then you expose that to different chemicals that are either acidic or basic to see the color change. So I have a link here to a YouTube video where a science teacher does a great job of going through a full lab using cabbage juice to look at the pH of different substances. And if you really want the background of the science behind it, it's all here for you. But for Valentine's Day, I really like to do this activity with my students. I teach middle school, but I've also done this with different STEM classes at the elementary level. So I kind of have my process here of creating this activity for my students. So a lot of the websites you see, they have you blend cabbage in a blender that you would use to make smoothies or milkshakes and then strain it. I find this method to be a little bit easier and it's a lot less time consuming. So I just chop up the cabbage, put it in a pot on my stove, let it come to a simmer or a boil, and then turn it off and then let the cabbage sit. And then I just kind of strain that purple liquid into a jar. And so I have it here. You're going to find that this really, if you cook cabbage all the time, but if you don't, I don't usually cook cabbage, and my husband hates it when I do this activity because the house smells. And when you do this in class, I tell my students it smells like a Minion fart gun because it definitely does stink up your classroom, but it's worth it in my mind because the kids have lots of fun with it. So after I create the purple cabbage juice, if you had upper level students, high school, middle school, and you wanted to turn this into a lab as well to match the activity, you could do the pH lab as described in this video. Or if you just want to make it a fun activity and a short lesson, I use a paintbrush and then I pour my purple cabbage juice into a bowl. And the night before I do this activity, I take watercolor paper and I paint the watercolor paper with cabbage juice. I had this on my counter laid out on top of some plastic bags so that this cabbage juice will stain, so you need to be kind of careful with it. But I put a few layers of cabbage juice on top of the watercolor paper, and then you can see down here, this is the final result. So the paper looks really cool just with the different amounts of cabbage juice. It looks like pretty purple watercolor paper. So the kids really love using it just because of that. But then what I have kids do is you can have them cut it out into hearts. You could have them fold it in half to make a card, but they use Q-tips and then they dip the Q-tips into different liquids like lemon juice, baking soda dissolved in water. You can use different kinds. You could use some hydrogen peroxide. You could use alcohol. You could use all different substances with different pH levels. And then the students can dip their Q-tip in and draw on the paper. And when they draw on the paper, because it's been soaked in this pH indicator, it will actually change color. So you can see here blue. This was some clear Dawn dish soap in water, and then when it touched the paper, it turned blue. And then the bright pinks over here are from vinegar or lemon juice. The kids always have a ton of fun with this activity, and they think it's really cool that they have color changing paper. So I have lots of other ideas with this lab. You could, at the younger grade levels, if you wanted to make it even simpler, with pre-K and kindergarten, they have in science standards, they need to learn a lot about solids and liquids. So it'd be kind of cool to freeze the cabbage juice into ice cubes and then to pour over some hot vinegar or hot lemon juice and watch it change color as it melts. And then, like I said, for the upper grade levels, you could do an exploration into maybe some other plants that also contain these anthocyanins that are also being used as pH indicators. And you could try some different pH indicators on paper to make the Valentine's art. So if you have any questions, please reach out and I can give you some more ideas if you'd like them custom to your specific classroom. Have a great month.